This season was definitely a different feeling than last season.
What makes them special?
It's such an individual sport. You go out there, you wrestle yourself, you're fighting your own battle.
What I realized was I need to be self-aware and kind of help improve myself so I can help improve the team.
I think wrestling's affected my life more just in the knowing what it takes to achieve something, the amount of work you have to put in no matter what the situation is.
Their ability to create fun.
Most of what you're relying on is your own knowledge and your own skill. But none of it, you can't pull any of it out if it's not for the guys on the side or your coach on the side.
I can persevere through difficult situations, so I know who I am really, yeah.
I love every part of wrestling.
We've got a number of kids that are exceptional kids in terms of being dedicated and focused and persistent and wanting to do well.
I first started competing in 7th grade in the spring when our tournament started.
I was a gymnast for a while, and I had always loved combat sports, and the reason that was because when I was a kid I always loved superheroes, and I really wanted to fight like one, to feel like one, to be like one. And so I started doing boxing and a little bit of MMA with my buddies, and I grew up with Wyatt, who had done wrestling, and eventually I got to the point where I was just I need to try this. And I had kind of gotten everything that I needed from gymnastics, and then after COVID, I was perfect timing, and so I moved, and it was a good decision.
And we had a number of kids, and I think one of the reasons this year's team was kind of special was we had a lot of kids that did extra work. We had kids that would go to different club practices, and you can't become an exceptional wrestler unless you're willing to do above and beyond what everybody else does. Champions do what nobody else is willing to do. That's why they become champions.
Wrestling, you cannot slack off. Where I got to the spot I was because every single day I went in with a mentality that I need to work extremely hard. This is not time to slack off. No matter how you're feeling in that moment, you need to put in the work because somebody else is doing more.
This year, me and David switched midway through the season from 60 to 70. I was having to get my weight down at the beginning of the season, and then through the end of the season,
In order to keep up with the high competition, I training after school with our team, and then afterwards on most days I'll go wrestle at different clubs to try and get better there, and then on the weekends I'll go to private sessions after our tournaments.
To make weight, I would get up in the morning, I'd run 4 miles. I would practice in sweatpants and sweatshirt just to sweat a lot. I would go home before bed, and then before bed I would run 4 miles, and throughout the day I would probably eat less than 1,000 calories. So it was not a lot of food I was taking in. So I was hard cutting because I deprived myself of that food so much. But after we got back from the meet, I would just black out and eat everything in sight. I would gain all that weight back the next 2 days, and then I'd have to cut it all again the next week. So that cycle was really what messed me up. And then I ended up being able to get on track towards that last 3 weeks of my season.
My relationship with both my coaches are, we have a pretty positive relationship. I'm always going to do what they tell me to do because they obviously know better than just some 16-year-old teenager.
Both coaches in general, it kind of happened before I even realized. I would look to them for comfort in ways that it's hard to describe. When they would, somebody is, it brings you peace when they can walk in a room and you take a breath and it's okay, he's here. And I remember there'd be times when something, I can't even describe a situation, but if there's something going on that's a little stressful and Coach Marzola walks in the room, I'm oh, that's cool. It's when you're watching a movie and your favorite character walks in the room because you're oh, he's gonna handle it. And that's how I always felt.
Coach says it a lot, and he just says he's a dumb old wrestling coach. I just can't describe how I feel towards him because he's such a figure that a lot of people don't have, and I'm glad that I have that figure in my life.
but I think they probably mean more to us than we do to them. You don't do this for 46 years unless you really enjoy and you love being around the kids, and you know, they keep me young, they keep me coming back every year. It's going to be hard at some point. I'm going to have to walk away from this in the not too distant future. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Well, these graduating seniors, they honestly mean the world to me. Every single one of them, I love them to death. They were the first people who talked to me when I first moved to HP. Everything about them, just their entire personality, I love them all to death.
It's going to be an interesting year next year. We think we're going to be pretty good, but we did lose a number of seniors this year. Some of them weren't starters, but it was a great group of kids, and it's kind of what Todd was talking about. There's just a real camaraderie with this team, and that starts with your seniors. Those guys are the ones that bring everybody together, and they did a great job of doing that this year. It'll be interesting next year, since we've only got, what, four or five seniors next year at the most. It'll be interesting to see. That means we've got some younger kids that are going to have to step up and be leaders next year, and be interested to see which one of those kids are going to be like that.
My advice to the incoming captains, I would say stay focused on your grades, the biggest one. Like the coaches always say, just focus on the little things. You gotta get the little things down first before you focus on the bigger things. So, and always just try to come into practice with a positive attitude every day. Don't be angry. Don't try to think you're above everybody else. Like, you know where you came from. You have to stay on that level.
Coach thinks that slowly throughout the last couple of years been building up a culture. And a culture is something that you have to have in order for you to be able to succeed as a team.
Well, I thought this team was really close, not just wrestling-wise, but you know, outside of wrestling. I felt like they were friends more so than some of the other teams that I've coached. They really enjoyed each other and were rooting for one another, and you could see that, you know, on the sidelines in matches. And
yeah, I agree. They pretty tight group. First one in a long time. I've had teams in the past that were similar to this one, but it's been a long time. Part of that's just you know, the process of developing the culture that we've been trying to put back together since I came back, what, 9 years ago. It's taken a while. Culture is something that's really tough to develop. And this year's team is really put, hopefully the next few years' teams in a good pace or a good track, for sure. Should we thank them? Should we thank the parents?
maybe.
Do they deserve a thank you?
I think they do.
I don't know. I think maybe they should thank us. You know, I mean, we took these guys off their hands for hours and hours and hours at a time.
Glorified babysitting, right?
That's right. And you know, it's pretty cheap babysitting too, don't you think?
It means a lot to have like my parents with me for everything, because like all the tournaments I've done outside of season, just having someone to bring me there, be with me and like take me to all the weigh-ins and every part of it, and like I wouldn't be able to do any of that without them.
Mom, Dad, I just want to say thank you so much. You guys have always stood by my side and always supported me throughout whatever I want to do, whether that just be wrestling or just life in general. And I really appreciate you guys for that, more than you guys know. I really love you guys so much, and I hope I've made you guys proud is all I can say, and I'm going to continue working so I can really know that I've made you guys proud, and I love you guys.
I mean, I get every single bit of my determination, my work. Everybody comments on my work ethic. That's the first thing that people say about me. And I always say I get every bit of that from my mom. I mean, I'm most like my mom, if I'm most like anybody in this world. And that often causes quite a bit of arguments between the households, because we're both so tough-headed. But she is the person who makes my healthy dinners every night. Every time people ask me about what I eat and stuff like that, I always talk about my mom's dinners. She makes the best fish, the salmon, and everything. She puts in the little effort to get the right kinds. And I know I give a lot of trouble with like digging in the bottom of the trash so I can scan my barcode for calories and stuff like that, but she puts up with it. And I think especially to see my mom do so much with so little help, it's nice to think that I bring a little bit of pride for her. She always tells me, like I heard her describe it a few times to other parents, how it's so motivating to her that we get to how we walk out on the mat and we fight these battles. And you know, I see my mom do that in life, like just like not physically, like with just situations that life brings. And so it's nice to think that I can motivate someone as tough as that. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, Dad, for always having my back and always on my side, whether it was for school or wrestling or grades, any situation. You were always on my side, and I appreciated that because I had a lot of things against me at many times, and I appreciate that you were always there.
Thank you so much for raising me how you did, and I can't thank you enough for all of the lessons you've taught me and how you have raised me to be a man, and that's too much to ask for.